You know that feels good when you exhale and inhale like that, the breath of life that the Creator has given you to sustain yourself in this world, in this realm, in this dimension. Humam Abdulmalik once again with Blackanized, international Nubian conscious chess moves. I say Blackanized because we must realize who we are as a people. International Nubian conscious, because it's about the global connection of all melanated people. And conscious chess moves is I present that to say that in this political arena is like chess moves being made, and that we being the pawn on this board, we have to understand our greatness, that we are the most important pieces in this political game, because we the only piece as we are that can rise once again to our prominence, to a position of dominance, like we've been dominated in this world now, economically, educationally, medically, spiritually, and all those things. If we rise back to the apex of our being, the divine essence of who we are, then in this chess game, we will win every time. But it ain't no game. It is life. Chess is a game, but our life is real. We just use that as a schismatic or a mode of operation while we in this quagmire, deceptive maze that we find ourselves in by social engineering and social narcotics and the willingness syndrome. But peace, through peace and power and love for ourselves, we have to rise again and develop an infrastructure for our survival. And once again, this morning before the sunrise, with Blackanized, international Nubian conscious chess move, I rise to motivate, stimulate, and agitate us to relate to each other in a way that we never done before, so we can come together as we should, as they plot and plan to, what should I say, gentrify all the cities around the country as they doing. I was listening to Claude Anderson, and he was talking about this methodology that they're doing, and they don't have no apology. As we assimilate into their system, at the same time, they dismantling our system and have us within their system. I was listening to another congresswoman, and she was saying her lack of trust for this system, her lack of trust for the alternative alternative facts and the team that's being gathered and put together, that has been put together. It never has been anything that I know of in the political arena that has dismantled itself in the first 30 days of its creation. It is amazing for us to have a leader that's imparted this United Snakes of hypocrisy to be so unique in his asinine disposition, putting together a team that don't hold true to the standards of what they're supposed to be, of integrity and honesty, to be in a position of leadership. But that's what politics is all about, and politics. And we got to realize that we as a people must get in touch with our God nature and develop our temples and our mentality. We must pool our resources together in order to develop an infrastructure. Because right now, in reality, they opening the doors. They already opening the doors, and they somewhat saying that they're trying to close the doors on our influx of people from other countries, but it's already has transpired. They already destroyed Detroit, and it said they got the Chinese or Asian population to come in and take over that, and then our Muslim brothers, in the context of Arab brothers or whatever, they also have another part of Detroit where they control and own everything, the stores and everything. I think that's not Deer Park, I was going to say Deer Park. But it's a part of Detroit that community has control. Like we have Chinatowns in this city in this city and also cities across the nation. But we don't have any city that we have that's like that, with established businesses and all that we own and control. At one time, we owned all the corner stores, but we sold them out. We are the best cookers and the best people to know how to deal with hair. But who controls that market in our community? Who do we take our money to? Who the best chicken cookers? When we take our money to the Chinese or Koreans or whoever, and it's one section of the town here in D.C., you can see a whole influx where Koreans own all the businesses. In another part, you see where Ethiopians own all the business. I mean, about 3 or 4 businesses. We don't see none of us no more. I can say that's not true. We are redeveloping here in Anacostia. We have a lot of black-owned businesses. And they're holding up. They're holding on their own, standing up. We got to support them, continue to support them. But all these is food businesses. We got a couple of other businesses. We got a real estate business. We got a radio station, stuff like that. We got to be more creative, and we got to hold this together. We have to hold it together, and we got to cement it. We got to be in this community and be behind it to support everything about our community. We got to support those that's in the political position to help us develop some influx of currency in our communities, and also to develop some institutions in our community that our youth can use, that elders can use, that we can use as a whole. We have to do this yesterday, even though it takes time for legislation and all that, but we got to be supportive of that. We have to and got to, man, come together in some love, man. We got to stop this killing of each other and stop promoting it. Promote some love, promote some peace amongst us. Again, I emphasize that we got to change our thinking, first and foremost. Because if you don't change your thinking, then you ain't going to change at all. There's no change. You got to change from within inside your conscious and subconscious mind. You got to think change. You got a sleep change. You got a dream change. A change of a divine change to get back in touch with your true nature, with our true nature, and come together as a people, unified and organized, to develop an infrastructure to once again have some Wall Streets, or just have businesses and maintain our businesses in our community, and be ever more vigilant in our communities of watching and being observant what's going on in our community. Because right now, I ain't never heard of the what's going on with missing children. It's like at a it's at a rapid pace. More and more that you hear about more children being missing or kidnapped or whatever that's going on in this business of sex rings or body parts or whatever it is. It's happening to us, and we got to stop it. That's why we need our young warriors off them corners in this silent war against each other, and be the guardians and protectors of our community. And we must support that effort holistically of all us coming together so that we can protect one another instead of hurting one another. We got to purify and clean up our communities. First, we got to start with ourselves. And the reflection. We got to look in that mirror and ask ourselves, is this what we want? Is this how we're going to be as a people? Are we related and involved with each other or to each other? We got to know that our life is sacred. We got to understand that, come together on that sacredness, based on that sacredness, based on what our ancestors left us, the messages and the signs and all that, to develop upon and to build upon in the spiritual context. I say, and I promote African spirituality. I promote race pride. I promote, I'll say even this, I say black nationalism. I promote us being from a indigenous and aboriginous base, because we are the original people of both. And I parlay that to African spirituality, that we must get back into our nature and how we are as a people, a divine nature. We have to understand who we are, and understanding the inner verse, we have a more profound effect upon the universe. People, it's all about business and being in this corporation and establishment of business and all that. But we can't be selfish in our endeavors. We must be unified in a unified effort, planning to come together. It's not hard. It's not hard. No, it's not hard, because we've done it before. We got a blueprint for it. The blueprint is is a divine prescript of the DNA. And not only that, of understanding who we are and that perspective there, but also those who were here before us left a blueprint, a guide to get through this quagmire, deceptive maze that is engineered through social engineering and social narcotics. All of it is to create an atmosphere of our demise, of holding us back, or putting us in a frame of mind that we want instant gratification, or getting caught by the slave catchers and getting put in the plantation of being indentured servants. Only place where you can be a slave is when you're incarcerated, when you're duly convicted by this fraudulent law. We have to know this, man, and we got to stop playing games with our lives and in our community and with each other, and be sincere and serious. And it's about becoming. It's about becoming, but not becoming egotistical and self-centered, and that the world evolves around us. But in your creative energy, once you create, become, but you become for not this yourself, you become for the collective of us, to uplift us, to parlay that creativity into being able to extend that essence or that energy to the next person, to uplift them or show them or guide them or something like that, so we can all enjoy the fruits of each other's labor, even though we may have individual talents and all that. But we must come together in partnership, collaborations, networking, and all, for the upliftment of us as a people. And I don't hate anybody. I don't hate any other ethnic group. Sometimes I applaud them, even though they're being used in this chess game. But I applaud them to be able to. There's a reason why they're able to do this, though. They come over here and they stick together. If they come over in this country from their country, whatever country it may be, if it be the Spanish or it be the African or whatever. We have to look at their collective communities and how they do things, which we have been trained not to do. They come over here and 5 or 15 of them be in a house or whatever, or maybe even an apartment, but they do everything together, pay the rent together, buy all the food together, and save their money together, and one by one they go get another place, a bigger place, a house or whatever, or they do it in the house and they pay for the house, or they get it to a point where each one of them can move out and get it, but they keep coming in. They don't stop that process, and they work together. They work together, whatever. But that's the Latinos, and that is the Africans that come from different countries, that they stick together and they work together. But we've been trained through the social narcotics and social engineering to be susceptible to not working together, but this being competitive in our nature and not wanting to come together collectively or whatever. We are manipulated to have that type of mentality. It's like, I got mine, you got to get yours. It's like, being under robot control for a job position or whatever. And instead of helping each other, protecting each other, it's like it's always a burden or obstacle for us to come together in a unified manner to help one another, to promote one another. But it's like, I got this position, I got to protect it, and I got to hold on to it and all that. Whatever type of positions in the private or the government or nonprofit or whatever, if we don't learn how to come together as a people and try to stop the negative energy and blocking positive energy, then we're going to be a deterrent to our own rise, and we'll be a part of our own demise. If we don't realize that we got to come together as a people through love and peace and understanding, so that we can surely be helpers of one another and not being agents of deception or agents of tearing down each other. It happens so much everywhere in all avenues and streets of where we work at. Every aspect of it. And you experience it yourself. I have experienced it. But you just got to get in a certain mode and be, you got to adapt. And you got to get around those who have assimilated into the system so much that they become a cyborg or whatever, or a clone. And a lot of times, those who be like that, I don't like talking about our people, but a lot of our people become our worst enemies because they don't know anything about themselves, like far as culture, identity. They just caught up in a syndrome of being like the term sheep or sheeple, and being led without even trying to discern for themselves to know the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't, like in the movie, you don't want the truth. You don't want to know the truth. Well, we do want to know the truth. They got to know the truth. Because if they don't know the truth, they ain't going to never aspire to be nothing but what they are and be hurtful to us and now, trying to rise up. Because they in a position to not help but deter, to kind of, be an agent provocateur in a sense. They get brownie points to tear you down instead of build you up. in the workplace and everywhere. Excuse me. Oh, man. From a divine perspective, we got to divinely educate ourselves, educate our mind and our thinking. Not only with like the so-called everyday institutionalized religions or whatever, but we have to go deep down and go black into the mind, in our minds, to find the truth and the essence of truth that is etched in stone, that we upon open up to ourselves to know thyself. It's the first law of nature. So when you begin to know thyself and get into yourself, you understand the nature of yourself, and that the divine-like qualities of yourself in the temple, but to be part of everything else. When you're part of something, you help it. You build it up. You make it stronger. You don't tear it down or neglect it. That's what we got to do. We have to build each other up in the essence of who we are. Spiritual beings, divine beings, melanated, from a perspective of African spirituality. And that's the reality that we must develop love and peace and harmony from the perspective of that divine energy that's in us, that derives from knowing ourselves through the African spirituality of who we are. I'm talking about from the ancient texts and stuff like that. Because we look at our African brothers and we look at our brothers here, we're hurting ourselves. But it's not the young brother. This is not like in Africa, South Africa. It's not a criminal element that's hurting us. It's the culture element. It's a culture alienation of each other, because you might come across the border. But they're not looking at those who took their country for years, had them in a state of a dire, in a state of, almost worse than what we went through here in our 400 or 500 years of debilitation and a sort of molding and shaping a certain type of perspective and mindset. But when you put somebody in a tire and tie their hands behind their back and pull liquid flammable stuff on them and drop a match on them, that's really barbaric, man. I can't even see it, man. I can't even fathom that. That's because they come from another part of Africa. But you ain't do nothing. You haven't done nothing to them people that took your country and still control your country. Still control the natural resources that belong to you that you don't get benefit from. You don't even reach out to do nothing to them. And like here in America, the same thing. The people that control and got money and all that, you don't do anything. They manipulate you by selling drugs and putting guns into our communities, and we kill each other. That is by design. That is manipulation of those that control the influx of drugs and manufacture weapons. And a lot of the weapons that we got in our communities across the country, those are the weapons that they use in war-torn countries. I'm talking about these weapons they use when they're at war. But that's what they're doing. They put those guns in our community with a silent war that they're creating and using our young brothers, as their soldiers of death. We need you as soldiers of life, as protectors and guardians of our community. You got to turn this thing around. You got to turn that switch off of that negative energy and turn a positive switch on, that divine nature in you. We need you. We need you in our community, across the nation. I can't speak it into existence enough. Without you, it ain't gonna be no us. How many more of our young warriors, sisters and brothers, got to go onto the plantation where there are slaves and indentured servants for 20, 30, and 40 and 50 years? It's already influx. Already have been an influx of our youth that went in for that long, and when they come out, they're our elders. You go in when you're 20 and 17 and 19, you might survive and come out. Would you be 60, 66? All your life spending there in an unnatural state. And your family out here. The woman you left out here. The children you left out here. And this visiting, you got to keep that connection, but it's a connection, but then there is a connection. The connection of letters and calls and this and that, but you're lacking that physical connection, and that's the deterrent in the relationship. But we know that. But we also know that while we out on this side in the minimum security, that we should be enhancing our ability to come together in peace, love, and understanding. I sincerely will what I'm saying, and I proclaim what I'm saying to us as a people, that we can do this in this day and time. While we see all this chaos and confusion going on around us, they're trying to create this. They are creating it for implementation of a next phase of what they're trying to do in their political system. Anarchy or police state or race war or whatever, but it's all for the development of a new world order. Chaos, they're trying to develop a new world order out of chaos and confusion. And see, they don't need us anymore, because it's already established the foundation of this nation, that on our free label, it got to the point that it is now. And the concept and quote, when talking about take America back to when it was great, on their behalf, I can't see it. I can only see where they really had their feet on our necks with black laws and Jim Crow laws. If it comes from their perspective. From our perspective, it's before they came here, the land was in harmony and peace. And when we had Wall Street, we was in harmony and peace. When we integrated and assimilated into the system is when all unpeaceful situation came about. And we cannot assimilate in the system no more. We got to be aware of what's going on in the system, though, because they might be trying to change the monetary system and all that, because we know that the money that they have doesn't have any minerals to back it up. We know that it's a fiat money, a promissory note that they use for exchange, and we are in this system, so we do the same. The more of it we got, the more things we can do, far as, materialistic things. No real endeavor like building up a nation or city or infrastructure. That's what we got to do. We got enough people with monies or credit or whatever to do this. We just got to want to do it. We know what affects us as a people. So we got to be in the context of helping us, uplifting us in this day and time. We got to develop our mind. We got to say black power from an African spiritual perspective. If we practice Islam, Christianity, Hebrew Israelites, or whatever, Buddhism, Shintoism, whatever we practice as a people, that practice it. I'm talking about black people. And I'm talking about us unifying, organizing, and rising up to be on an equal footing with everybody else in this dimension or realm or whatever, economically, academically, and business-wise, because it's a corporation. And I'm realizing that if we don't develop businesses, then we will be left out in the cold. This being consumers. We deal with businesses in order to become producers. And I'll say this before I go. We're in the political domain here in the United States of hypocrisy. And being a part of the hypocrisy, we shouldn't be. But it's, I guess, when you go into this arena, you have to be strong, very, very strong. The sister I was talking about earlier who was making some statements about the political system was Maxine Waters, the Honorable Representative Maxine Waters. When she says she don't trust the system nor Trump, those people who are around him, I don't see how we can trust them either. We know that their characteristics and personality has been talked about even by their peers, that they're white nationalists, affiliation with the Ku Klux Klan, and all these white racist institutions and organizations. But they didn't just turn that way in coming into the circle of Trump. They always been that way. They been that way in the positions where they were before they came under his leadership. But it's crumbling every day. Someone in there they'll quit or is fired or whatever because of their lack of integrity, lack of honesty. But these people run our countries. Run this country. It's not our country. It's supposed to be about us, but it ain't. That's why we got to come together and be about us. It's about them ever since it was established. And when it was established, they said that we were 3/5 of a human being. They still got that mentality in the system because it may still be in the law book. And they try to straighten it up with amendments or whatever, but I don't know if they did it fully. Because the idea or the mentality is still there. So I say again, closing, we as a people must come together based on African spirituality. No matter what door of institutionalized religion that we walk through, I say again, if it don't bring us together and it's keeping us apart, then that ain't the mystical art of the Creator, of God. Because on the canvas of God that is painted unification, coming together as a people. Because everything in nature has an effect on something else. Everything works together in nature. So we have to be naturalistic and simplistic in our discernment and attitude of coming together in what we practice. So let's come together in peace and love and understanding. And stop saying we can't. We can do what we put our mind to through the synergy, the energy and the vibration of the divine currency that runs through us, that connects us from the earth on up, from birth on up, through life on up, and through death. But don't be here and die because we need to die for a cause. We need to live for a cause and not because. We need to live and not be manipulated on how we live. Or we got to break out of the design or the mold that's being shaped for us, unbeknown to us. because they're master of manipulators and stimulators through these apparatus that we listen to, sit down 6 or 7, 8 hours a day, look at and listen to, and be programmed as robots. Because if you don't feed yourself something that's going to promote a divine nature or whatever, educate you in a divine way, in a culture way, whatever you putting in, it's going to come out in word, action, or deeds. Because your brain is like a computer, and you got to program it. But through self-programming, self-educated, I mean, we got to go through their schools, because this is the institution that we're under now. This is the political climate, or this is the political arena that we're in. But that's why we got to unify, organize, and develop an infrastructure, an institution of living, a groundwork from foundation, how we should live our lives in a cooperative, collective way. We got to do it. We got to listen to our ancestors that wanted to do this, that had promoted this, and still promoting it today. We got the UNIA, we got the nation, we got Christian churches that promotes coming together as a people. On the continent, we had Patrice Lumumba, Kwame Nkrumah. We even had Gaddafi. And now we got Mugabe that talks about the United States of Africa. Do we know what that entails? How much power will come from that if they get a United States of Africa and can defend it upon the horde of Neanderthals and Chinese and everybody that know the power, the greatness of just the land itself? If you can control the land, you can control the hand that feeds you, because you'll be that hand. And over here in America, we got to develop businesses. We got to buy land over here in America. We got to start growing our food. We got to develop an infrastructure. And I think we have to re-educate ourselves on the basis of African spirituality, because we got to get back into our culture purely. A pure culture. We got to get back into our understanding who we are. We can't go by the labels or the validation of other people from being monkeys and baboons and niggers, because they the niggers, not us, or Negroes or whatever. We can't be black because they have a black land, and we are black men and women. Or if you're going to be African American, you represent Africa and America. Whatever we be, first and foremost, we are human beings of a divine nature from the Creator, in the oneness of a universal concept first. We got to understand the universe so we can understand or overstand and have an effect on the universe as a people holistically together. So in peace and love, I say, peace and love and power to us as a people to rise up, just like the sun rise up every day and give us warmth and give us comfort, and the technology that give us comfort and warmth, that through our creation, that we create a better world for us, for our children. We got to be more protective of our children, because they need body parts. They want body parts, and they so caught up in these sex rings, because that's what they do. Pedophiles and alternative fact finders and everything that's of a derogatory nature. We have to come out of that dilemma or the perspective and be creative what we do and make ends meet, make the currency flow, but be protectors and guardians in our community, and stop being manipulated in the silent war that they got us perpetrating against ourselves. It's a funny thing, right? they got us doing that. Then they want us to go to war, fight against somebody else, and then to come back, then they got these jails to manipulate us and trip us up, and so we can be indentured servants. We got to stop that. We got to be in love and peace with one another. Amen. Don't forget to hug somebody today. Ashe. Don't forget to tell them that you love them, hug them, and motivate them and stimulate them. For us as a people to grow, that's what we got to do. To stimulate love, peace, and understanding by a divine way, a spiritual way, African spirituality, in whatever door religion you walk.